Welcome back to Adventures with Rosie. So over the next couple of videos we are going to chop down and sell our wood lot. We've got about 42 pine trees here we're going to chop down, hopefully sell to the local mill, and it starts right now. I'm just kidding, I don't have a clue how to use a chainsaw. Alright, so before the big exciting machinery arrives, which Harvey and I are looking forward to, I've got the drone charging up so we can get some cool drone shots. I just thought I'd explain how the process works of selling a private wood lot and how the money side of things works. So we have two kind of lots of trees on this property. We've got about 42 down the bottom that we'll be taking out tomorrow. Up the top here, we've got about 60, 70 trees. The trees down the bottom are quite a bit bigger than the trees up the top, and they've all been pruned on this property, so there's no branches on the bottom half of the tree, which helps the grade. So it's a higher grade of wood, so we should be able to sell it for more money. Certain mills will only take certain grades of wood, right? And then some grades in New Zealand we actually export overseas to China and other places. We'll try and sell as much of the tree as we can, so maybe the bottom half is a certain grade that'll go here, and the top half is another grade that'll go there. There's also like pulp grades of wood, which aren't worth much money. But basically each grade of wood is worth a certain amount of money on the day per ton. So it's kind of like the stock market, I guess. It's always changing depending on who's buying wood, the demand, and that sort of thing. So basically how it works is we pay everything per ton. So it's a per ton price. So we have a contractor that will come and chop the trees down, and he will be X amount of dollars per ton. We then have a manager that in the middle, that there's the wood buyer that the contractor sells the wood to, or the contractor engages, and that wood buyer basically has the contracts with the mills and the ports, and he's responsible for getting the best price out of your trees. So contractor cost per ton, management cost per ton, and then the shipping cost per ton, the transportation. So if these trees are going to the local mill, you know, not as far to transport them. If they're going up to the port to go overseas, that's 2.5 hours from here. So you know, that transport cost will be higher. So basically, say if at the moment primo wood was $100 a ton, and say the guy's going to cut it down and he's going to charge you $30 a ton, plus the manager's going to charge you $5 a ton, and the shipping is $30 a ton, or the trucking to the port. You're looking at $65 of cost to process that wood, so you would be left over with $35 per ton. So if you sold you know, 100 tons of wood at that grade, you would have you know, $3.5 grand profit. The only other thing you pay for is the transportation of the equipment. So the guys are going to bring in a big kind of digger with a grapple, like a big claw basically, that'll hold the tree. They'll cut the tree, and then they can lay the trees down wherever they need to with that digger. We have to do that because our trees are on two neighboring boundaries, and they have what they call edgewood, so they have big limbs out that side. And so if you were to cut them down traditionally, they would want to fall into the neighbor's property. So we have to fall them and put them in the right place in our property. So what you do for that is you pay the price to ship that piece of equipment or any equipment required from the last job to your job. And then the next person that, you know, has their woodlot cut would pay to get that machine from our place to their place, basically. So you're always paying to ship it from the last job to your job. Obviously, you know, those big sort of diggers, excavators have to go on trucks and be transported. I just spoke to the guy this morning, and the last job they're working on now before they start on ours tomorrow is just up the road, like literally 5 minutes up the road from our house. So hopefully that shipping cost will not be too high. But none of these costs you pay up front. So basically, at the end of this process, and we'll show you a full breakdown of this, but we will get some sort of paperwork that says these are what we cut down the different grades, the different tons. Here's all the fees. Here's what you're hopefully left over with. Hopefully that's a positive number, not a negative. Or here's what you have to pay if the wood was not great. At the moment, shipping wood to China here in New Zealand, a certain grade, is not that lucrative. There's not a high demand for it at the moment. It's a lower grade wood, which ironically gets sold back to New Zealand after they process it in China. But yeah, you're not getting good money for that. You are getting good money at the moment for the really primo grade of wood. So it is a bit of a stock market, does fluctuate, but we need to get those trees out of there because they are massive mammoth trees that are going to cause us problems, and now's the time to get them out. So yeah, we'll give you a full breakdown at the end. Fingers crossed we can at least break even. I don't really want to spend any money on this project. I don't have money to spend on it, but we'll see in the end. So yeah, I'll sign off here, and then when I pick this camera up again, hopefully there's some heavy equipment down in the bottom yard. We'll get the drone up and you'll get some shots of them cutting down. So there's a couple of things we have to do before the guys come in and chop all these trees down. One is remove the old horse jump, which is dug into the ground. I don't know if it's concreted in, I really hope it's not. The other thing I've got to do is take my shed down. So this shed here, which we saw in a previous video, is just made out of stacked up pallets. There's got to be 100 pallets in here, but I'm going to take it down and try and salvage the pallets. The pallets will be really good for stacking firewood on to keep it off the ground as it dries out. But yeah, I imagine if they start chopping these trees down right next to the shed and they hit this thing, it's just going to be a mess. So that's my job today, get it all packed up, get the horse jump out, get it all out of the way, so that when those guys are ready to come and start harvesting the trees, they're good to go. I don't really know what to do with all this timber, but it kind of feels like I should hold on to it. No doubt there'll be projects in the future where I need some timber. There's also some fence railings in there if one of these pine trees ever falls down on a fence or something, so I'll store it in this big shed somewhere. This roof's actually pretty sturdy. It's pretty surprising. It's got a whole lot of old rusting tin on the roof, absolutely covered in pine needles from these trees. So it looks like there's only a few nails. Thankfully, whoever built this only put a handful of nails in this roof. So pull all the roofing off, I guess, and then figure out what to do with the pallets. There's no way I'm going to be able to haul this all up the hill on the lawnmower, so yeah, I might have to just stack it up down here and go and hire a trailer, I think. Well, we're 2 hours in and I've got like half the shed done, so I won't bore you with the rest of the shed being torn down. One thing that was quite interesting when the guy came out and looked at these trees is that he said some of these taller ones here, they'll have to lie up the bank. He reckons some of them are so tall that they're almost going to touch our water tank up there, and then some of the ones in this corner are going to have to lie down into that corner of the property. So he basically said they're going to put them down into each corner of the property, and because I said to him, oh, could we just wait 5 years and do it later on? He basically said they're going to start getting so tall that we're going to go through fences into neighbours' places or touching tanks and sheds and stuff. So kind of lucky we sort of thought we should get them checked out, because I thought, oh, you just leave pine trees for another 10 years and they'll be fine. But it's going to be pretty cool to see. It's going to be a mess down here, I bet. Once they get going, they're going to obviously have a machine in here that's pulling them, holding them so they can pull them a certain way when they saw them down. So it's going to rip up all our beautiful grass down here, but kind of we're in spring, so summer, I guess this place can just recover over summer, and I'm guessing we're going to have a lot of tidy up to do over the summer holidays. There's a ton of timber up in these limbs and the tops of the trees, so yeah, it'll be fun. I'll be situated here in the summer. If we're not in the caravan, you'll find me here. Well, today's the day. The trees are coming down. Come down nice and early. These guys start at 7 o'clock, I think. So Thought I'd come down and just get one last look at the trees. It's a little bit bittersweet. We do have some pretty big plans down here in terms of what we're going to replant, especially along this bank area. But as you can probably hear, if I shut up for a second, there's lots of birds down here. So yeah, a bit sad that all these trees will be gone by the end of the day, but it's, yeah, we kind of have to do it. They're getting too big. So yeah, the guys will be here shortly. Just going to stand here and listen to the birds, and then it is drizzling, so I don't like my chances of getting the drone up unless it stops drizzling, but we will see. Let's all go here. There you go. Oh, these guys have been here probably 45 minutes and dropped 10 trees maybe. Pretty cool to watch. This whole house shakes when they drop the trees. And we've seen our neighbours appearing over fences wondering what the heck's going on. Pretty cool to watch though. They're making short work of it. Alright, so this is what a morning's work looks like for three rather skilled loggers, but pretty amazing. You can't see the grass anymore. All the birds are still around, which is good. But yeah, pretty cool. Harvey did see a dead bird. So these are cut into lengths. I think these are 4.4 meters. Depending on the grade of wood is the length they cut it, and yeah, they'll use the big claw to load some of them up. Some of these edge trees are leaning towards the neighbours, so they'll actually hold those with the claw on the big digger, cut them and then pull them down into the property, so they don't go through the fence, because I've not met the neighbours on that side and I don't want to get a knock on the door and, and have some angry neighbours. A lot of the limbs obviously all the limbs will stay here, and I'll be tidying those up over the next few weekends. There's some really good firewood in some of these limbs, so it'll be well worth me spending the time cutting it up and, you know, drying it out for next winter. What a mess. And this is only a third of the trees. That big gum up in the corners coming down as well. That's probably a year's worth of firewood right there in one tree. So what are you going to do with all the pine cones, Harvey?
We're going to find some buckets and put them into the buckets and hopefully sell them.
I'll sell them next year at winter?
Next.
For some pocket money?
Yeah, and I'm going to buy really expensive Lego sets.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Better get picking them up then, eh? We built the kids a big pine cone storage crate up at the shed, so they're going to collect them all, put them in buckets, and then we're going to put them in old feed sacks and sell them at the gate next year, hopefully, next winter. I'm
going to make up lots of money.
Harvey reckons he's going to make lots of money. There are thousands of pine cones in here, so if he can be bothered picking them up, he can sell them.
We're picking up pine cones.
You picking up pine cones? So this is what one day of work looks like for a crew of 3 people. They took out half of the trees, like 25 of them. Look at all these beautiful logs. So these are all stacked in the different grades. The crappy stuff down there through to these primo big logs that are nice and straight. So the stamp on them basically denotes what grade they are, and then you get paid by the grade. So the fatter they are and the straighter they are, the more money. So some nice looking logs in here actually. The pile of brush that's left behind is insane. That would be taller than the caravan right there. That's what I'm going to sort through and chop down and refine into firewood in the coming few weekends, I imagine. But yeah, pretty amazing. The grass is pretty much toast, but your digger's kind of, you know, as the digger's driving back and forth, it's kind of munching a lot of this stuff up, so it should be pretty easy to clean up. But heaps of wood left behind, like this sort of thing here. Chop that up, you know, there's a couple logs for the fires, a couple more there, there's all these stump bits, tons of firewood, so I'm happy. Just need to kind of work through it over the next few weekends. All those ones up there will go tomorrow. Similar sort of thing, grab them with the claw and then fall them down this way, and then they're going to lay this big gum down here on the ground for us, and that'll just be firewood, that gum. So yeah, it's a mess, but I think we'll just chip away at it. We're already picking up pine cones over here before they get squashed tomorrow, so the kids are excited about their money making pocket money scheme. So yeah, we'll get to picking up some pine cones. I want to see if the keys are in the digger too, maybe take it for a spin. The amount of pine cones here is insane. Chelsea's been going at it about 2 minutes and filled a couple of buckets. Nice big beautiful pine cones. So the kids, they've only picked up a few, but they're going to make a lot of pocket money out of these, I think. Pretty exciting, the biggest tree of them all, that big corner one that I hugged in the intro to this video, it's about to come down. And how cool is that? Our whole house has just been shaking. I've been in meetings at work all morning. I've kind of missed the last dozen or so trees being chopped down, but just sitting there in my meetings and the whole house vibrates like a mini earthquake. But man, so cool. That guy who drives that excavator with the claw on it, I don't know what you call it, but he's very skilled. You might see him, I don't know if you can see in some of the drone shots, but he kind of flings the claw up and then grabs the tree so he can grab it up as high as he can. But pretty skilled team. Alright, the last tree's about to come down, which is a bit sad, but they've left the hardest one for last. There's a giant pine down in the corner, and I just went down and chatted to them, and he thinks that it's probably going to go, there's a high chance it might go through the neighbour's post and rail fence, so I don't know. He said there's all the limbs are on one side of the tree, so they're worried that when it falls it's going to twist and go through the fence. So I'm going to throw the drone up, because yeah, if it goes through the fence I've got a lot of work to do this weekend, but at least we'll get the shot right. So put the drone up and we'll see. All going to plan, they'll just lie it nicely down in the gully next to the fence and no damage. We'll see. Well, all the trees are down. What a mess.
Such a mess. Everyone warned us, they're like, it's going to be way worse than you think. And we're like, oh yeah, we get that. But this is...
Look at this pile, the pile the size of our house. That's a mess for another day. The truck is coming soon to load all the logs up, and then hopefully, there looks like some good logs in here. Says the guy who works in IT and knows nothing about logs, but hopefully there's some money to be made, because it'll make this cleanup all worth it.
This weekend we've got to put all the fences back up and clean out the council gully, and then we get to tackle our land. So
we're going to be busy.
Big job.